It's an election year, which means the right wing has taken to painting all immigrants as violent invaders, especially after the terrible murder of Laken Riley on the campus of the University of Georgia by an immigrant from Venezuela. It's a terrible tragedy to be sure, but not an indictment of all immigrants, migrants, or asylum seekers who commit crime at a lower percentage than people born in the United States. Nonetheless, the right wing, for political reasons, has been hyping up incidents like these, and Fox News has actually even begun promoting people who are out there protesting. I've got no problem with protesting. Go ahead and bring it to the city council, whatever, right? Bring it to the mayor. But it is interesting. One of the guests that Jesse Waters brought on his show. So this is a man named James Lee, who had demonstrated against criminal migrants during a press conference held by Athens Clarke County Mayor Kelly Girtz on February 28th. Now, James Lee was invited onto Jesse Waters' show, and here's some of the highlights of that.
These are criminal, illegal aliens.
James, when you let him have it, what was the room like? Because it looked like people were supporting you, even law enforcement.
I was surprised. I was ready to be dragged away because I was going to say what I was going to say. I was mad and upset over this senseless murder. So,
yeah, I picked up on that too. Usually you get dragged kicking and screaming like that. It looked like they were willing to let you have your say. So you're a father, you have 4 daughters, 1 son. You just have a young girl murdered in cold blood by a criminal alien who never should have been in this country, bailed out time and time again by sanctuary cities.
2 miles away.
2 miles away. How do you feel as a dad?
If that was my daughter, I think I would have done a little bit more today in that meeting.
Probably.
That mayor would have had a black eye walking out of there.
Hey, remember Santelli on the floor of the exchange, yelling and screaming about the government spending, and it kind of sparked the Tea Party? You did that today with the sanctuary BS. You did that. Your voice did that.
Yep.
And it was a voice that was heard loudly around this country. So I want to thank you for raising your voice and confronting this liar.
Ah, yes. You know, the criminal aliens, right? You know, if it were my daughter and I were in that meeting, I would physically assault them. Interesting choice of words. Also, the remarks about being dragged out. I'm surprised I wasn't dragged out. Why? You have a First Amendment right to protest, to redress your government, redress your grievances towards the government. All that's First Amendment protected speech. Why are you worried about getting dragged out of these things? That's really strange. Now, funny enough, I do actually believe him when he said he would give that mayor a black eye. Why? Because James Lee has gotten himself into trouble before. Not for protesting, because again, that's a First Amendment protection. No, it turns out that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported that the press conference had been interrupted multiple times by different protesters. Once again, totally protected. Why are you worried about getting dragged out? Weird. Law enforcement officers let everybody speak, including James Lee, who they had to, remind to wait his turn. Hey, you're going to get a chance to speak, just like let the mayor finish speaking first, right? Now, James Lee, though, has, as I mentioned, gotten himself into trouble. Because James Lee is not his real name. Turns out, his name is James DePaola, who had told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution after the press conference ended that we the people are tired of this lawlessness. We're tired of the lawlessness. Now, I'm not trying to equate the murder of Laken Riley to anything else, right? To any kind of lesser crime. Oh, it's a horrible crime. And I hope the person that committed it gets punished accordingly to our laws, right? But when we're talking about lawlessness here, like lawlessness where he describes it from criminal aliens, right? But is it okay for people who are born here? I mean, it shouldn't be, but it turns out DePaola himself has had some multiple run-ins with the law himself, okay? Including an incident where he became violent over a grilled cheese sandwich. Wait, what? Well, hold on here. Again, I'm not trying to equate these two things, right? But apparently, migrants, all immigrants are violent criminals. However, if you're threatening your family, your wife, over a grilled cheese, being too cheesy, that is totally fine. And you will be brought on Jesse Waters' show to be praised. As like, you heard him. He called him, you compared him to Rick Santelli that started the Tea Party. No, what a hero. You were using your voice to speak out. Wow, what a wonderful person. But first, let me give you the story, okay? This is from a Time report back in 2016. So a man wanted 2 slices of cheese on his grilled cheese sandwich. When his wife put 3 slices, he became irate. Angered at the sight of all the extra cheesiness, this is from the article itself, James DePaola became agitated and violent, yelling at the woman, Michelle DePaola, according to WSB-TV. DePaola then ripped the landline out of the wall so that his wife was not able to call the police, and then screamed at her intensely and threatened her. The couple's 12-year-old daughter, who witnessed the incident, called the police to the scene, according to the Athens-Clarke County Police. James DePaola was charged with obstruction of a 911 call and criminal trespass damage to property over what police now refer to as the grilled cheese incident. DePaola also has a history of abusive behavior and was often excessively critical and controlling of day-to-day things in life, like sandwiches, apparently. So that's the James Lee, same guy, different name. In fact, let me show you the mugshot here. So that was from 2016. All right. Let me show you another one. That was more recent, 2023. And this one's from 2020. Weird. You know, it looks like the same guy from the segment, only that guy's wearing a hat and glasses and going by a different name. Now, why would you do that? That's really strange. If it's the same guy, it appears to be, then why did Jesse Waters call him James Lee? Curious. Makes me believe that Jesse Waters knew this guy, who he was, and that perhaps in vetting him for the show, I don't know, found a few red flags, a little bit of a criminal history of being violent and controlling, and thought, ooh, he's going to come on to talk about criminal aliens, okay, immigrants, and how all, you know, migrants and immigrants are all criminals, okay, violent, terrible people, murderers. So we might want to, I don't know, hide the fact that this guy, who was, again, a natural-born American citizen, also has a history of violence. What if we just hide that? Just got to make that go away. Seems a bit dishonest, right? Look, I could be a little bit more forgiving of somebody who didn't do their full, you know, their due diligence, right? And go to the background of every guest who appears in their show, do a little bit of vetting, right? You're supposed to. Now, it's still bad if you miss something like that, or if you just are too lazy to do it, especially if you have the resources to vet your guests. But I actually think it's far worse to intentionally, in my view, hide the name of the person you brought on to praise because of their troubled history. Especially if you're using that person as an example, as like a hero, right? Oh, thank you so much for speaking out. Your voice is so important of pointing out these criminal aliens. I don't know, it seems like the man's a giant hypocrite, talking about violent crime while apparently being a bit of a violent criminal himself.